Hello, Ariana. How are you today?
Hello, great. I had a little snack. I had my little drink. And I'm back.
I had a little snack. Do you want to see what I got? What I had for a snack? What I went to?
I do actually. There's very little, Adam, that I would say. Wait, is this right? I was gonna say there's very little that I would be like. Wait, is that the right way of saying it? There's very little that I wouldn't want to see. There's not much.
I'm not going to show you my nudes, Ari. God, stop trying to see them. Oh my God.
And basically anything you want to share with me, I probably would always be like, yeah, what do you want to share? I want to listen. That's what I was trying to say. Oh, you know, peanut M&Ms are the best too. I am team peanut M&M.
Oh, for sure.
So do you know what I was already thinking about? Because Michael said it yesterday when I was
Look at this
saying about
fat boy. It's like a tube. It's like they fuse together.
Yeah, a fat boy. I'm already so excited to come back to Chicago because you know I'm going to get that Chipotle. You know I'm going to get that Chipotle right away, girl.
The one we go to. Yep. The one we go to.
The one you literally pick me up from the airport and then we go to Chipotle.
Right by the Target. Mm-hmm.
You've done that like twice now for me. Oh my God, bless.
We're here. It's time.
Oh my gosh, I know. Isn't it weird?
I can't believe it.
How do you feel when we finish another book? It feels very bittersweet to me.
Oh.
I'm always like, aw, another one. Actually, this book, though, I probably feel that with the least because this book is a hard book to get through because you know what's coming. You know it's sad. This and 5, I think, are the two that are like, I don't know, the hardest to. There's the least amount of like comedic bits.
Yeah.
Or like funny things. They're the two most serious books without like how Deathly Hallows is very serious, but just has a bit more of like a payoff, obviously, because it's the final book.
It's the end, yeah.
Yeah.
And it really fucks up on that last epilogue, so, you know, it's fun to end with a nonsense chapter. Can't wait for that to be the last book chapter of this series.
Well, we'll have the movie.
A whole episode for us to dedicate to be like, wow. Now let's talk about this.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Ari, this week we read the final chapter of this book called, which is chapter 30, by the way. It's called The White Tomb. Ari, what happens in this chapter?
First off, I just got to say, I love that it's an even 30. Way to go.
Love an even. And it's a multiple of 10. It's great. Love it.
Yeah, love it. Nice round number for us.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently what happens in this chapter? Everyone comes. I was just going to dive in. Nothing of importance. What happens in this chapter? Folks from all around the wizarding world come to pay their respects to good old Albus Dumbledore. Mm-hmm. And Harry vocalizes his next move, maybe. Like, is that a good way of saying it? And Harry addresses how he will choose to be moving forward to Ginny and Ron and Hermione.
I will say it's probably my favorite of all the books, the last chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the books, I think it's the best one.
Yeah.
Because it's not the like, and we're going on the train and it doesn't do any of that. Like,
yeah, it's kind of a standalone in that regard, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the chapter opens with some parents already having taken their children out of school. So the Patel twins are gone.
That would have been me. Goodbye. Get out of here. Are you joking?
I would have stayed for the funeral, for Dumbledore's funeral. I would not have wanted to miss that.
You would have been Seamus arguing with his mother.
Yeah. My mom would have been there for that funeral. My mom would have come too. My mom would have gotten a little room in Hogsmeade.
If Dr. Warren had been murdered in our high school, he would have
not the same. I mean, Dr. Warren, I still would have gone to her funeral. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what is the equivalent of that though? There isn't an equivalent for Dumbledore at our school. No one cared that much. No one cared about students that much at Clay High School.
I feel like would be in college if our theater director, the head of our theater department had been murdered.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, some parents have already taken their children out. The Patil twins are gone.
Zachariah Smith.
They were gone before. Gone. Yes. Yeah, Zachariah Smith gone. Seamus has a shouting match with his mom or his ma because she's like, you got to come home. And he's like, no, I'm staying for the funeral, to which she ends up agreeing to. And then she tries to get a room in Hogsmeade. But she has a hard time finding a room because everyone's coming to try and pay their last respects to Dumbledore at his funeral.
I think God, this is the second week in a row I'm going to give a compliment. I think there are times in writing generally that I really like when you do the thing where you have specific thing and then it segues into a larger point. Mm-hmm. And that's an example of this where it's he had an argument with his mom, so then she tried to stay in the town, but then this is what
perfectly leading
everybody was coming. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, that's true. Those are really nice.
Very flowing. Yeah.
So among the people coming to pay their respects is Madame Maxime. Her powder blue carriage causes quite a stir for the students that weren't at Hogwarts back in Harry's 4th year for the Triwizard Tournament. And as soon as she gets off the carriage, she throws herself into Hagrid's arms. So can confirm they are still an item, y'all.
Yeah.
Harry is actively avoiding.
Well, to be fair, he's the only one that would be able to handle her throwing herself.
Yeah. He's the only one that would be able to hug her. So Harry's actively avoiding Scrimgeour. I think it says other Ministry of Magic people, but mainly Scrimgeour. That's the one he really doesn't want to talk to.
Scrimgeour and Percy.
Yeah, and Percy. Yes. Mm-hmm. Percy's stupid ass. The trio and Ginny are spending all their time together. There's this beautiful weather that Harry says feels like mocking him and his time with Ginny. I was a little confused by this, Adam, because at first it says that all the exams and whatever qualifying tests were postponed and canceled. But then Ginny had finished her exams. So, which is it, Joe?
Wait, I thought it said...
Because Ginny would be a 5th year. So is that everyone except people taking their OWLs gets their exams postponed? How many books, Adam, have exams been postponed? Does anyone take exams at the end of the year?
No. Hold on. I'm going to reread it to you because you misunderstood.
Okay.
The beautiful weather seemed to mock them. Harry could imagine how it would have been if Dumbledore had not died, and they had this time together at the very end of the year. Ginny's examinations finished, the pressure of homework lifted, and so he's saying what it would have been if it wasn't going on like this. Yeah.
Okay, so they'll take their exams at the beginning of 6th year then. Can you go into 6th year without taking your OWLs? This is crazy to me. This happened in book 1 and this happened in book 4, Adam. Didn't it happen in book 2 as well because of the Chamber of Secrets? Exams are canceled every year.
Yeah.
I don't care.
We got to do take-home tests. It's got to be take-home tests.
I don't care about exam grades in terms of students having to. I'm not a person that's we have to test children at the end of every year.
Ari is pro standardized testing.
Yes, I'm not pro standardized testing at all, but I'm you keep doing this in multiple books.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't ever have to take a test is what I'm saying.
There's no testing.
Okay. Yeah, whatever they've been doing in the class, however well they've been doing, that should be it.
Yeah.
Just use that.
But even then, the testing is feels arbitrary again because it's just the professors that later determine who they want to take into the advanced class.
I don't even know what to say about it because I'm like, it's happened so many times at the end of so many books. So it's like, and tests and exams were canceled. And I'm like, okay, well then we just don't take them at all. Because you can't introduce something like owls and newts and then just be like, and then they were canceled. Just like,
yeah. No, we have like dozens, if not hundreds of witches and wizards that enter the workforce not able to do anything because they never took their standardized testing.
Yeah. And Adam, you know what? And that is why the Ministry of Magic is the way it is, actually. We have just answered our own question.
That's true. We've gotten to the bottom
how many
of
books
it.
now?
Bureaucracy is bad.
Okay, but thank you for reading that for me because then that clarified. Okay, so Ginny has not taken her exams. So Neville has been discharged from the hospital wing. Stop, you're making me so hungry for peanut M&Ms. I don't think they have. I haven't found any over here, actually. I think they have them somewhere. I just haven't like seen them in the shop. Just chilling. So Neville has been discharged from the hospital wing, but Bill is still there. And may I remind you that Bill is not a student at Hogwarts.
Bill's not a student at Hogwarts, no.
So why is he there? He should just go to St. Mungo's, correct?
It's very weird.
St. Mungo's. Is it because he needs to just like rest up before he's like strong enough to leave?
I would believe that if there wasn't such a thing as fucking apparition in this world. Like, you just have to grab him and then go.
Powder.
I mean, I guess no, that's not true.
Because you have to be at full strength to do that,
you can't apparate on Hogwarts grounds, so they would have to move him. They would like to have to get him outside to like Hogsmeade. And
okay, sure. Him out. But the fight, I guess the flu network isn't hooked up within the castle, which is crazy.
But they can one-off that. That I know. We know they can do.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know why he's still there, but we'll just say it's because he's not back to full strength yet, I guess.
We know. Wait. We know. Okay, hold on. We know.
What do we know, Adam?
We know that the flu network at Hogwarts is linked to the regular flu network because Sirius flews in book 4 before the order has been reestablished to.
Oh yes, right. To talk to Harry. So it's not
like book 5 when he comes into the fireplace to talk to Harry, you could ostensibly say like, oh, you know, Kingsley or Tonks who work at the ministry or Arthur like somehow were able to link it so that he could like have these conversations with Harry. Book 4, that is not the case.
No, yeah.
The only unless Dumbledore would be like, oh, I'm going to link just the Gryffindor common room so you can talk to Harry. But like, I don't think I don't even know. Would he have that sway? That's crazy.
Well, Dumbledore definitely has the sway at Hogwarts, you know. But
without question, like somebody being like, hey, can you just hook up the Gryffindor common room?
Yeah. Just for this one night. I don't know. Maybe because obviously the whole thing of Voldemort's back, maybe it isn't now.
Yeah, maybe they took it off the network. Yeah.
But anyway, he stays there apparently. Bill stays in the hospital wing. So Bill looks a lot like Moody now. Harry observes that he is like kind of his face is a little mangled, which is so funny because Bill was played by the actor that played Moody. Bill is played by his real life son.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, they're father and son. So that was kind of funny.
Oh, that's funny. Oh my God. Donald Gleason is his.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You can tell, like, now you'll never be able to unsee it because they definitely look alike. Yeah.
Is Donald Gleason, is his hair naturally red or does he dye it?
I think that's his real hair color, isn't it?
Because what's his name? Because what's his dad's name? Something Gleason.
I always forget. Oh
my God. Mad Eye Moody actor. Brendan Gleason. I think has... Brendan Gleason. Oh no, is it?
Kind of gingery, but he's just older now, so it's faded a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I guess it's just faded. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow,
yeah, because his beard.
Wow, that is so crazy. They are father and son. I'm now looking at pictures of them together.
Yeah.
That
and they have one other, he has one other son
funny.
too that is an actor that was in a show I really love called Bad Sisters.
Donald Gleason, I think, technically has the most footage of him in Orlando, Florida, because he's in like multiple attractions.
Oh, really?
Huh. Because he's in Rise of the Resistance, and he's in, for that. And he's in Hagrid's motorbike adventure. Or is it No, maybe it's the Gringotts ride. I think he's in the pre-show for.
Oh, okay.
Because he worked at Gringotts.
Yeah, worked at Gringotts.
So yeah, Arthur's in the Hagrid's motorbike adventure pre-show.
I need to go back and ride that. I've never ridden that ride.
So good. It's so good.
That's what replaced Dueling Dragons?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Bill looks like Moody, but his personality is the same. There's no real changes with his personality. And then they said that he just likes his steaks very rare now, which I'm like, how did you find that out?
When is he eating steak?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Okay. And Fleur's like, well, this is great because the Brits overcook their meat anyway. So it's great that he's marrying me.
That is so funny. That is hilarious.
It's such a French thing to say, too.
I don't even know. Is that true? I mean, when we had, when I worked at like Planet Hollywood in Florida and like it would be very interesting because obviously we had like a lot of South American tourists that would come to Walt Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
But we would have like the first round of dinner, which would be like all the Americans, and it would be like 5 to like 8, basically. It's like whenever all the Americans would eat dinner. But like the Brazilians, Argentinians, they would all eat dinner super late. So they would start coming at like 8 till like midnight. And it would be like all the steaks would then take so much longer because they all order them like super well done. Like they want them like
okay.
fried, like bitch. Wow. They want them black.
Yeah, I haven't heard people say that about British meat. It's just that obviously things are like that have like no flavor. That's like that's the thing I can confirm is true, is things just don't have a lot of flavor.
Yeah. Colonized the world for spice and then didn't know what to do with them. So
yeah. Come on. Really let us down. So Ginny is like, I guess I'll just have to accept that he's ending up with her. I'm just going to have to accept that he's marrying her. And Harry's like, she's not all that bad. Ugly, though. So ugly. And I was like, oh my God.
I can't believe the last chapter of this book we were to talk about.
She had to do it in the last chapter. I don't even know if it's worth like getting into it. It's just like, this is just so revealing about Jo. Oh my gosh. I went on a whole rant about this to Adam before we started recording.
It's just
you can think someone is attractive when you're dating someone.
I mean, it's like also
you
just
don't
like,
have to be like, she's ugly.
It's so it's so dumb. It's so stupid because we all objectively she is beautiful. She's like a quarter creature that like is supposed to be gorgeous. Like you're just lying to make the other person feel better. It's so stupid.
That would make me feel worse. I'm like, okay, we know she's gorgeous, but whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe it's because it's like she's obviously so beautiful. I don't know. I'm so sick of it, though. I'm just so sick of it. So the Ministry are looking for Snape. Harry's like, well, yeah, of course they are. They're not going to find him. They haven't like he's with Voldemort, and they haven't ever been able to find Voldemort, so they're not going to be able to find Snape. They're all kind of chatting in the common room. Ginny's like, oh, sorry. I should say the reason why they know the Ministry is looking for Snape is because when they're sitting in the common room, Hermione reads it like out of the Daily Prophet. And then Ginny's like, I'm going to go to bed because I have not been sleeping well because of, everything that's happened. And then she gives Harry a kiss before going to bed, which Ron
What happened? What happened?
Ron conveniently when she kisses Harry, Ron looks away, and I was like, how old are you? Come on. My God.
Oh, I can't even look.
Such a hypocrite. So Hermione's like, I found something actually in the library. I was going to tell you, Harry. And he's like, oh, what? About RAB? She's like, oh, no. And then it's revealed that Harry has already shown the note to Hermione to try and figure out who RAB is. And she's been checking in the library. Yes.
This is where when in the last chapter we talked about last week, was said like Ron asks like, oh, who do you think RAB is? And Harry, there's like this part of the chapter that's like Harry couldn't care less. He does not give a fuck about RAB.
Yeah.
So it's so funny that there's no, I mean, it's fine. It just like it was funny to me that she went out of her way to be like, he doesn't care. He's like over it. And then like 3 pages later, he like slips up in his seat and is like, RAB? Oh my God.
And then to not add anything, like Harry's tune had changed about RAB, and now he realized
it's just something
to
be like,
important thing.
Now that he had gotten gotten some sort of clarity from or just I don't know anything. He had slept. I don't know something.
Yeah. Got enough sleep. Yeah. So yeah, Hermione's like, oh no, sorry. It's nothing to do with RAB. I found something out about Snape, actually. And then she points out that she was sort of right about the Half-Blood Prince business. And Harry's like, oh my God, I already feel bad about that. Don't make me feel worse. And she clarifies, she's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. The girl that I found that I showed you, was it Eileen? Eileen Prince?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, she married Tobias Snape. So she was Snape's mother. Severus Snape's mother. Mm-hmm. And Tobias Snape was apparently a muggle. So he had a muggle father. And Harry's like, oh, wow. He's just like Voldemort. He's like trying to play up his pureblood status and then downplay any muggle parentage. And just the fact of that it's like Lord Voldemort and then like Half-Blood Prince. Harry's just like, ugh.
The titles. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Harry's kind of going through it in his head because he's like, I can't believe Dumbledore trusted him. Like, why did he trust him? He's clearly like trash. To which we would say, we agree. He is trash.
Correct. Yeah.
Although not for the reason that is trying to be pushed onto us. So Hermione's like, Harry, you're putting too much blame on yourself. I would have never guessed the prince was a killer, and I didn't like the prince. So like, don't be, so hard on yourself. Then they're like kind of talking about the funeral situation for Dumbledore, or like thinking about the funeral. And Harry reveals he's never been to a funeral, and they didn't do anything when Sirius passed. And that was crazy to me. I was like, you didn't even have like a little ceremony for him. I've never thought about that, but that is wild. Adam, they didn't do any little like remembrance ceremony or anything.
A little like party.
That is so bizarre.
Because there's no body. That was like the only reason.
Yeah, but I'm like, people have like burials when there aren't any bodies sometimes.
Right,
just
of course.
For the ceremonial purpose. Like, I'm just like, So Harry's
but also
just
nobody was supposed to know that Sirius was like alive and well too.
I guess, yeah. So Harry is just going back and forth kind of between feeling very horribly overwhelmed about Dumbledore's death and kind of like obviously the grief surrounding that, but then also feeling numb. And he's really struggling to accept the fact that Dumbledore is truly gone. Mm-hmm. So the day of the funeral, he gets all packed up because the Hogwarts Express is going to leave like an hour after the funeral. And when he and the others get down to the Great Hall, Minerva has left the throne-like chair empty in honor of Dumbledore. However, Snape's place has been filled by Rufus Scrimgeour, and then also Percy is there. And Harry just already has a feeling that Rufus is like looking for him because he's like looking out at the various tables where the students are sitting. So Harry's thinking back and remembering those last moments before the Death Eaters came up and Snape came up to murder Dumbledore. And he's thinking about how Draco dropped his wand. And Harry just knows that Draco wouldn't have killed Dumbledore. He just knows.
Yeah.
Which makes him even more angry at Snape. Yeah. So, after everyone's kind of finished eating breakfast, Minerva like claps her hands. It's time for the funeral. They all head down in silence. I thought it was funny that Joe specifically mentioned that our girl Pepperoni, our little Pepperoni Sprout, has never been so clean. Not a speck of dirt or soil on her.
Not even a patch on her hat.
No, just looking her. She
took a shower today, honey.
Yeah. Looking her very best. So thankfully it's a really beautiful day out for his funeral. There's tons of people from like the Order there. Tonks and Lupin are holding hands and her hair is vibrant pink again. So they must have decided to give it a go. Other people that are mentioned being there are the barman from the Hogshead, who we still don't know who that is.
Yes, a very specific, but I think it's done really well where she just like drops it in as like another random.
He's there. Yeah.
It's done very well.
Really well done. It's him, Madame Malkin, and then the witch that pushes the trolley cart on the train.
Yeah. Maybe that's Ariana. We don't know. Just
kidding. Girl, she already gone. Yeah. We learned that Neville and Luna were the only members of the DA who responded to Hermione and Ron's call via the coins, which is understandable because they were the two that obviously missed kind of that camaraderie the most, because they're both kind of a little bit more like loners outside of the DA.
Yeah, I like that it uses, like, they don't frame it as like, oh, people don't care anymore, but it was more like, well, they just didn't. They hadn't used their coins in forever, so like, they just didn't know. Yeah. They
kind of moved on with their lives, where Neville and Luna, they were always like, oh, the DA. I know, it's sweet but sad. Harry is very annoyed to see that Rita Skeeter is there, and also Dolores Umbridge, who is like doing this weird little like sad face.
I don't understand how Dolores Umbridge is a character that isn't like in prison. Does that make sense? Like, I don't. It's so weird to me.
The Ministry, they're just like protect you, Adam.
She was
Donald
like
Trump is not in prison.
No, I
know.
What
do you expect with our world?
Listen, I expect the Wizarding world to be a little bit better.
Come on.
I guess it was interesting because obviously when Fudge was there, he wouldn't have imprisoned her, right? Like whatever. But with like Scrimgeour, I feel like it would have been a chance to be like, Fudge was doing things wrong, so I'm going to do things differently. Like I guess that's my only like, interesting. But maybe she is just actually good at whatever her day-to-day job is.
Yeah, they're like,
maybe
she's
really valuable. She's irreplaceable.
I'm happy to say though that Dolores is very uncomfortable when she
still looks
Ferenz.
Like a toad, by the way. She still looks like a toad.
Toad-faced for life.
Toad-faced for life with a black velvet bow perched atop her. Wait, I have to find the color. The color of her hair, I didn't know what it meant. I'm going to read it to you because I was like, what color am I supposed to be picturing?
I can't remember the color.
Rufus Scrimgeour, Professor Sprout, Dolores Umbridge. An unconvincing expression of grief upon her toad-like face. A black velvet bow set atop her iron-colored curls. Like silver?
Yeah, like gray. Okay. Or like a, what is it? Isn't iron like a little bit kind of like greenish? Gray?
Iron.
No, it's just gray.
Images. Okay, it's just gray. Okay. I couldn't tell. Then I was like, maybe they mean like if it starts to rust. So I was like, is it red?
Like rusty hair color. But yeah, Dolores is not happy when she sees Ferenz, the centaur, because obviously we know she had a little run-in with the centaurs. So she scurries off and tries to sit as far away from him as she can.
But then I was like, and I'm so sorry, I'm still stuck on this. But then I was like, a cast iron skillet is like black.
Black.
So then I was like, is it black? I can't believe I'm spending time on this.
It's so iron. Sorry. Iron is the material of the cast iron.
I'm sorry. Okay. Ferenz is there, looking gorge.
Yeah. We're past that. She was afraid of Ferenz, and she sat somewhere else. So Scrimger is in the front row, which I'm like, I guess is the minister. You're just always going to have him sit in the front row. But Harry had the same thought I had, which I was like, do you even care? Do you even care that he's like, pass, like actually? And then the mermaids come up like just under the surface of the lake and they're singing. And there's this moment where Harry sees them and they like briefly remind him of the Inferi. And it kind of like, he's like triggered for a second, but then he is comforted by their song because he's like, well, they at least, you know, knew Dumbledore and liked Dumbledore and blah, blah, blah. And so he's comforted by their singing in the end. So Hagrid comes down the aisle carrying Dumbledore's body, which is wrapped in purple velvet with golden stars on it. And Harry is like very moved by this. He doesn't like outwardly shed a tear, which Hermione and Ginny are like full on crying, sobbing. Ron's face is like white as a sheet. And poor Hagrid, who is carrying Dumbledore, is just like beside himself. Mm-hmm. He's like crying silently as he's carrying him, trying to hold himself together. So
this
after
is
Hagrid,
crazy. They're like,
what?
He's carrying his dead body.
Yeah, in like,
I guess I was like so like surprised. It wasn't like in a thing. Like it was
yeah. So he just like places it up kind of like on the, like a dais? What would you call it?
It's really like an altar, but
an
like
altar. Yeah, like an altar. And Hagrid heads back to sit next to none other than Grop, his half brother, who is sitting like in like a suit, basically, and he like has his head bowed in like a somber expression. So whatever. I can't believe
there is no comment on like. I mean, obviously in the chapter, but like people are not like, why is there a giant here?
And how did Hagrid get him like that? Well mannered.
He's been working.
He's
with him.
Really been. He's been really, really gone. He's gone to like
wrong
finishing
about
school
Grop,
lessons.
It's important.
I guess
to say that
he's really turned over a new leaf. Grop has.
Mm-hmm.
So Hagrid goes back to sit next to Grop. What ends up being read by the. You wouldn't call them an officiant. What do you call someone that is like?
Oh, I think officiant is like perfect because it's like.
Oh, it is okay.
Not
an officiant.
Yeah, it's not religious and necessarily.
Okay. So the officiant is like reading some words in remembrance of Dumbledore, and it doesn't really feel. It's not like doing Dumbledore justice is how Harry feels. He's like, this isn't like as meaningful as it should be for like this incredible man that we've lost.
Can I ask you, have you ever been to a funeral where the eulogy given you feel like is like this person didn't know anything about who died?
The only funeral that I can really remember was for Judy.
And
I didn't know her well enough. Like I went to support Aaron, obviously. Because I don't think I've been to a funeral like with my mom as a kid, like because my mom obviously didn't have a babysitter. But no, have you? Sounds like you have, unfortunately.
The person who gave the eulogy at my grandmother's funeral, to me, it did not feel like
accurate.
It just felt like it was very generic. Like it was very like, what a woman.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah. I've thought about this more because I don't know if your mom is like this, but my mom is at that age where she's like, oh, and she just like is like planning that in like a specific way. Like Yeah, she's like knows where she's gonna be buried. Like or not buried. She's gonna be in a crematorium, but like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so like that leads me to think about it, and then I've always been like, well, I think of me, Diana, and Leslie. I think they would want me to speak if it was someone in the family to speak, simply because like I'm more of that energy.
Used to, public speaking and stuff, yeah.
And so then I was like, oh god, it's just weird. I was just like thinking about it recently, but it's like so. It is weird that like humans, especially now with modern medicine, where we don't encounter death as like frequently as like humans used to, but we like no one. You don't want to talk about it. It's so like it feels like if I talk about it, then it's like gonna it's gonna happen. I'm gonna will it into fruition. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it is weird. I would probably be like your mom, that I'd be like, this is what I would like for my funeral, just so no one has to worry about it. But it's like a very like strange thing to be like talking about.
She's like planned her service. She like knows the songs that are going to be done and like.
Oh, but see, that's really cute though. Cause that's like, it will reflect
I think also,
her.
I think after our grandma died is when she was like, I think that's when it like starts to set in that it's like, oh, it's, I think when your my assumption is, I don't know yet, but my assumption is that like when your parents go, you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm next on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like you have that realization, I guess.
Yeah.
To get the affairs in order.
Yeah. It makes you think about it in a way you kind of haven't up until that point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as the little man is like reading is it like a eulogy or whatever it is for him? Eulogy?
Yeah. A little eulogy.
Harry's like thinking about the mermaids and their song and how Dumbledore learned Mermish and how sad he is that he like never asked him where, when he learned it. And then that is the moment that it just like hits him that Dumbledore is gone, and he like squeezes the locket in his hand. And this is like such a real thing with grief, that it will be like such a random thing that you'll be like, oh my God. Like I remember when I realized with both of our dogs, like I was like, oh my God, wait, that was the last like Christmas I'm ever going to have with them. And I didn't even know. Or like, oh, we never got Jack tested for like what kind of DNA he had, like what type of dog he was. And I always wanted to do that. And so it's really weird how like you'll have a thought like that of like, oh my God, I never asked. And I can't like, and then you're like, and I can't. Like I can never
There's no more opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. The opportunity.
Well, that's not true for Harry, obviously. He could just go talk to the fucking portrait.
You're right, Adam. So yeah, Harry, you're actually wrong. You can talk to him.
Yeah.
And then after Harry kind of has this moment, the centaurs come out of the forest. Harry is remembering how Dumbledore said it is like so important to keep fighting, which then makes Harry think about all the people that have stood in front of him and like died fighting for him. So he's like, his dad, his mom, Sirius, now Dumbledore. Like Dumbledore was his last protector and he's lost him now as well. And so he's just really kind of coming to terms with like, he's letting go of the fact that he has had a protector. Like he's like, okay, there's no one that's going to stand between me and Voldemort now. Like it's me versus Voldemort. I'm not going to let anyone else die trying to fight for me, trying to protect me.
I think I do actually like the way Harry's thought process is written throughout this chapter, because it's so confusing, but that's the only
all over the place.
All you
and
feel.
That's exactly how grief is.
And I really like when he talks about the guy who's speaking, the officiant. He like has the moment where he's like, this is so funny because Dumbledore's idea of choice words were like nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that.
It's so like it makes him like stifle a laugh because he's like, why would he say something like that? That's so silly.
Yeah.
It's the thing it almost like aids this guy having this like very generic kind of eulogy because you're able to just like it just is allowed to be a drone for you to like think about whatever else you need to think about.
Yeah.
It's
actually so real.
It's really good. Yeah.
It's so real too to have like a moment where you're like like a happy memory and then you're like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I laughing right now? Or like, why am I trying to stifle a laugh? So that is very real too. So after the small man has finished speaking, there's kind of like a moment's pause where they're like, I think everyone is just kind of wondering if anyone else is going to get up and talk. But no, it's just that man. The body ends up like sparking into flame. There's these big white flames that erupt. White smoke like spirals into the air, and Harry thinks that he sees a phoenix rising up out of the smoke and like flying off into the distance, which I was like, are we supposed to think that's like a spirit? I
have no idea. I was like, oh, okay.
It could literally just be like a fun magic, like essentially like a trick of like, a trick of the smoke or whatever. But then it's gone. Yeah, it's not like a physical phoenix. It's just like he thinks he sees it for a second. And then there's a white tomb that has kind of like come to fruition in place, protecting the body. So the centaurs that have come out, as I mentioned, they fire their arrows. How does this magic
work? I'm sorry. What? How does I'm sorry. Just 1 minute. There's a tomb just exists.
It's just, funeral magic, Adam. Classic wizarding funeral magic.
Wizarding funeral magic that we did not.
I mean, we don't have anything to compare this to. We don't hear anything about like tombs or graveyards or anything up until this point. Oh well, the Muggle graveyard, but not like a wizarding one.
Yeah,
we don't know anything about how they have stuff set up. So the centaurs fire their arrows in tribute. The mermaids descend back into the lake. Harry turns to Ginny because he's like, I have to say this to her. I have been avoiding saying this, but I'm going to have to say it now because I know what I have to do next. And when he turns to face her, he just knows by looking at her that she has already prepared herself for whatever he's going to say because she just knows him so well.
They just got each other. They're simpatico.
Yeah. So he's like, Ginny, this has literally been like a fairy tale out of someone else's life these past few days with you. But it's too dangerous for me to be with you. Like it isn't safe us being together.
I think it's very revealing that he says it feels like someone else's life because it reveals that he doesn't think he like deserves this.
Yeah.
It's actually really interesting about his view of himself. Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's horribly sad it reminds me, it's a little bit like the Lupin conversation from last chapter, Lupin and Tonks.
I don't even know if it's like deserve might not be the right word. It's just like, he doesn't feel like he has that as an option in his life. Cause he's just like, it's not, I'm the chosen one. So I don't get that. Right.
At the very least, he knows that someone is going to be chasing after him, trying to kill him until the day he dies. Like,
yes, yeah. So anyone that's like
one of
with
them
him,
dies.
Yeah. And I love that Ginny's immediate reaction is like, "Well, what if I don't care? What if I still want to be with you?" And Harry's like, "Well, I will care. Like, what if I'm going to your funeral? Like, what if this was your funeral?" And then there's this whole confession from Ginny, which I don't really like it. I have to be honest. She's like, I never gave up on you. Hermione advised me to like, just Hermione was telling me just to move on with my life, date around a little bit. Maybe then you would notice me because I was like being myself. And I was like, you know what? This could have been written so differently and I would have been okay with it. If she was like, the
problem is like, this is what she was right. Like the worst part is that like, that's why he does notice her is because he gets jealous of the other guy. It's like,
And also just the fact
he doesn't
like,
notice Ginny because she's Ginny. He doesn't just notice her. It's like, oh my God, it's so annoying. Yeah.
It's because he's like, annoying. I want her, but that guy has her. But I want her for myself.
The monster inside of him.
Yeah, the monster inside him. But also it's just like Ginny, if Ginny should be able to, she should have been able to move on with her life and then realized that she still had feelings for him or something like that, rather than, oh, well, I never fully gave up on you. Like I was always hoping we'd be together. Cause I was like, oh, ick. No. So I didn't like that. I thought that could have been written in a different way, where it was like, you know, Ginny just like essentially moved on with her life. And then it worked out that, yeah, he did notice her because she was able to show who she really was, instead of just being like petrified and silent around him. You know, he got to know her and really liked her for her personality and blah, blah, blah. So she's like, yeah, I never gave up on you. I did, you know, think of you and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, well, you know, I wish we would have had more time. I wish I would have asked you out sooner. But she says that she knows. She's like, I knew you wouldn't ever be happy unless you were off like hunting Voldemort. You know, I expected that. And then at this moment, Scrimgeour finally has like zeroed in on Harry. And he's like, can I talk to you for a little bit? And he kind of tries to do, okay. I don't like when people do this. Get to the point. You want to talk to me? Get right into what you're going to say. This whole trying to be like, oh, I'm sorry about, oh, Dumbledore, you know, it's just such a tragedy that this happened and it's such a shame. What do you want to talk to me about? Harry did exactly what I would do. And he has to do it twice, Adam, because Scrimgeour starts trying to do the bullshit again. And I know some people consider this rude. Like some people consider it rude to just flat out go to whatever you're trying to ask someone rather than being like, oh, how are you? How's it going? I don't like that. Obviously, if we're friends, like I want to be like, oh yeah, what's going on? How are you? What's new with you? Blah, blah, blah. This is so weird to be like, oh, it's such a shame, you know, that happened. You don't even care about this person. We both know you and Dumbledore like didn't get along. It's different if he was like, you know, Dumbledore and I never saw eye to eye, but it is a shame that this was how he went out.
Horrible tragedy. Blah, blah, blah,
yeah. Just like something like that. Like, I can't believe this is how it ended for him. Like, blah, blah. I can't remember exactly what he says. I don't have my book. But I just remember he does it twice where Harry's like, get to the point. And he like still is trying to be like, oh, just such a sad situation. Blah, blah. And Harry's like, what do you want? What do you want from me?
He's just being a politician. Can I say, but just really quickly before we go into Rufus Scrimgeour of it all, that I think the conversation with Ginny ends so strangely. So the whole thing is
weird.
It's so bizarre. So it goes, well, I can't say I'm surprised. I knew this would happen in the end. I knew you wouldn't be happy unless you were hunting Voldemort. Maybe that's why I like you so much. Harry could not bear to hear these things, nor did he think his resolution would hold if he remained sitting beside her. Ron, he saw, was now holding Hermione and stroking her hair while she sobbed onto his shoulder.
I forgot that bit.
Tears dripping from the end of his own long nose. With a miserable gesture, Harry got up, turned his back on Ginny and on Dumbledore's tomb, and walked away around the lake. It's not the end of the conversation. Like she's in the middle of talking to you, and you're just like,
wait. Sorry, I must have been really invested in my yeah. I'm so sorry. I must have been so invested in like whatever I was typing in my notes that I missed that he literally just gets up and walks away from that conversation.
Correct.
He also, does not the fact say that like Ron is crying with Hermione.
Right. It's just
Scrimgeour doesn't. Okay. Yeah, Scrimgeour doesn't interrupt them. Harry just gets up and leaves.
Yeah.
If I was
interrupts Ginny with him leaving.
Yeah. If I was Ginny, I would have been like, "Oh, all right then."
Yeah, I think it's fine to be like he knew his resolve wouldn't hold. Blah blah blah. Like I think that all makes sense, but it's just funny the idea that she sense. Like says like maybe that's why I liked you.
Oh my gosh. So Scrimgeour basically just wants to find out where Harry and Dumbledore went. And Harry's like, I'm not telling you shit. You piss me off already.
If I didn't tell McGonagall, I'm for sure it's fuck not telling you.
If we're not telling our girl Minnie, you are definitely not finding out, sir. So Scrimgeour does the whole, like, he's gone now, and Harry has the line from book 2 where he's like, he'll only truly be gone from Hogwarts when none that are loyal to him are left. Whatever. I don't remember exactly word for word what it was. And then Scrimgeour is like, like, you're Dumbledore's man through and through. He also tries to find out if Harry will be like a little poster boy for the Ministry, and Harry's like, once again, no, I will not do that. It's annoying
because it's an exact copy of the conversation from earlier in this book, and there's not really anything new added to it. So I was a little like, I actually would have preferred if that conversation happened here. Like, it didn't happen earlier in the book. It happened here because I think it would be more impactful and make him seem so much shittier if, like, he comes to Dumbledore's funeral and then is like, anyway, can you make me look good with the general public?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So
like, I think it dilutes. I think it dilutes it by having it twice. Anyway, that's all I was gonna say.
So no, Harry is not going to help them. Scrimgeour walks away empty-handed again. Harry walks over to the little beech tree that they like to sit under on he says, like, they used to sit under on happier days.
This reminds me, I wanted to say too, so often in like books and media, like funerals happen on like a rainy day or it's like cloudy. And I like that in this book, they specifically call out that it like is like the perfect summer day.
Beautiful weather. Yeah.
There's something about it that almost like, it feels right. Like, it feels like it is okay that Dumbledore has passed. Like, sometimes I feel like it's used to be like, oh, we should all be sad. Like, it's the rain is a representation of like the sadness of the grief. Yeah. But there's like something about the like, because it's sunny, it makes, and it's also because I know the whole book series too, that like it makes me feel like, oh, but Dumbledore knew, like, it's okay that he went, like, he was in charge of his own destiny, and like there's something I like about now knowing that the tone of it.
Well, it's like the universe is kind of reflecting. The universe is trying to communicate a message of like, it's okay. It was like, it was meant to be the way or he knew what was going to happen, and he's not like disappointed about how things went out in the end.
Right.
I remember when I think it was literally like the day, it was either 1 or 2 days after we had to say goodbye to Khaleesi. I always talk about how much I love like cotton candy skies. And I woke up and went to work, and Adam, it was like the most electric like cotton candy sky I have ever seen in my life, like right after she had passed. And I remember just taking a video on my phone, and it was like all around, like everywhere was just like, I have the video somewhere, but I was like, it felt like the universe was trying to be like, it's okay. She's all right. She's like, not in pain anymore. And so when you get something like that, like when there's like a sign from the weather in that way, it can be really comforting in a magical way. So it's nice that she had that happen like with his funeral, with this event, rather than having it be like pouring rain. So the golden trio are sitting under the little beech tree that they always love to sit under. Harry tells them that Scrimgeour, basically asked him to be the poster child again, was trying to find out where he went with Dumbledore, and he told him to kick rocks. Ron is like kind of like struggling with himself for a second, and then he's like, look, let me go back and hit Percy. It'll make me feel better. And Hermione's like, no. And she like holds him in place. And then Harry shares with both of them that he will not be coming back to school. He's going to stay at the Dursleys one last time, since Dumbledore asked him to, or like wanted him to. And then he's going to go check out Godric's Hollow, because that's where everything kind of began for him with his journey with Voldemort and everything. And then he is going to start hunting Voldemort. And Ron and Hermione are like, well, we're going to come with you. And Harry did not anticipate this. So he was like, no. I'm trying to make it clear that like I have to do this alone. And they're immediately like, you're definitely not doing this alone. And we're coming with you. We thought that you were going to do something like this. And we've kind of prepared for it. And they just basically don't take no for an answer. But Ron does point out, he's like, you definitely can't start before you come and stay at my parents' house one last time, though. And Harry's like, what? What do you mean? He's like, because of the wedding. We have a wedding. Bill and Fleur are obviously going to be married. What? It's like June, I think, that they end up getting married. I can't remember what month. Maybe July. And he's like, you can't miss that, obviously. Like, no one will ever forgive you if you miss that wedding.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay. They're kind of all like, that'll be the last thing, we all get to do.
Last
thing
thing
we get to do. Yeah, before we all disappear to go hunt down Voldemort. And Harry's
and all his
like,
little bits and bobs. Voldemort and his little pieces.
all his little pieces spread out all over the place. And then Harry has this moment where he's like, wow, in spite of what is happening right now, in spite of what has happened, what is coming, what I'm going to have to do, everything that is, kind of on the horizon that I'm going to have to face at some point. At least for right now, there is at least one last golden day of peace left to enjoy with Ron and Hermione. And that is the end of book 6.
That's it. That's all she wrote. She being Jo.
Oh, wow. What a book. Book 6.
What a book. What a book. Great job, Ari.
Thank you. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty tired since we did 2 back to back.
All right. Well, that wraps up this chapter. In 2 weeks, we will be getting our recap of the 6th book, or the sixth film in the franchise. Harry Potter.
I love the film. I love the 6th film.
Half-Blooded Prince.
There's so much comedy in it. I love the 6th film. They found a way to bring the comedy back in the 6th film in a way we didn't really get in the book. So yeah, I'm ready for it.
We have some comments. I'm going to read all of the comments from the ones we've missed over the past few weeks. So,
oh gosh. Okay.
This is about Quidditch. Remember the end of the Quidditch season? Weeks ago, we talked about this and how Gryffindor won.
Yes.
So Tasha says, I am also a bit confused about the Quidditch thing, but if I have to bring it to a similar sports experience, if I can remember correctly, since it's been like 6 years or so since, but for volleyball or basketball regionals, if you had the same winning and losing streak as another team, they would compare how much you won or lost by with the other team, and the one with the better score gets into the better bracket. But if this is a championship game, I don't see why the points would matter at this point. I don't really get it either. But then Chaya Red says, I'm not a sports person, but the Quidditch Cup seems to be won by points, not wins. So let's say each house plays against each other house. So each house gets 3 games total. Say Hufflepuff. Okay, now we're doing math. Say Hufflepuff loses 2 of their games by 10 points, but beats Ravenclaw by 300 points. Gryffindor wins all their games, but only by 10 points each time. Hufflepuff still wins the cup because they're plus 300, and Gryffindor is only plus 30, even though Gryffindor won all 3 of their games and Hufflepuff won only 1.
Okay.
But then I still feel like the person with the more wins should win the cup. If you won all the games of your season, but then like another team that just won 1 game really strongly, maybe only because the other team was super shitty, I feel like the team that won all the games should win the cup. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I just always feel like whenever we start doing math, like a part of me, my eyes just glaze over a little bit.
Ari fully is like,
I'm just like, I get it. Whoever wins by more points wins like or is like higher up in the bracket. I get that. Yeah. But I'm just like, I don't know if I could go in and start doing it. I'd have to physically write out the math because that's how my brain would have to understand it.
I just think it's very silly, especially in a game like Quidditch, where one thing that is done earns an automatic 150 points.
I know.
So
that
like
is
you
like
could
crazy.
You could just like play the game, because like then you would like the other team to have only you win by like 30 points. The other team has to get so many fucking shots. Like the chasers have to do so well.
Yeah. I know.
It's so weird to me, guys. I hate sports. Okay, the next episode. Ashley Dillon says, I love that I found this podcast. I think the interest in Twilight for your fans is that it can be so polarizing. You either love it because it's bad, you either love it because it's bad, or you just hate it, and that's it. And any of the three, loving it because it's bad is probably the more fun option, right? You get to enjoy and make fun. So people are clamoring, Ari. I hate to tell you.
Oh my God. Okay.
So then
I've never read the book, to be honest.
Cherubini says, my opinion about, I talked about this a little bit last week in our episode last week. My opinion about Slughorn and Snape, which could totally be wrong, and in reality, Joe probably was just omitting it to hide the true reveal, is that Slughorn Slughorn doesn't talk about Snape because he was a Death Eater. Slughorn collects people that have power, respect, etc., so that he can be powerful and respected by association. But Snape, to be honest, doesn't have any of these qualities. From the Wizarding World perspective, he was a Death Eater. Voldemort died, and now he basically just said, "Oh, I don't actually support him," and started working at Hogwarts. Slughorn has nothing to gain from being associated with Severus, so he doesn't advertise that connection in the same way he doesn't advertise that he taught Tom Riddle. And to be honest, we never really see Snape and Slughorn interact at the school, so for all intents and purposes, I assume Slughorn avoided him. He keeps Regulus... Oh, this is about Regulus, by the way. So.
Yeah.
Sorry. Spoiler alert. He keeps Regulus on the shelf because Regulus was a Death Eater who, at a tragically young age, stood up against Voldemort and died for it. But Snape didn't really do anything except just leave the Death Eaters when the band disbanded and started a new job. I hope this makes sense. I love this podcast, and I love feeling like I'm hanging out with you guys. 5 stars only. XOXO. Rachel the Ravenclaw.
Oh, Rachel. That is such a good point. And that's why I think, Adam, you must have seen this comment, but that was my first time hearing it. Because when you made the point about Snape and Slughorn, I was like, oh, yeah, that's true. But yeah, that is so true, Rachel. Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to say I knew Severus Snape either.
I don't want to know Severus Snape. I wish I didn't.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, and then the next episode, Tabby Matha again comments, you were talking about Game of Thrones in a very specific episode, a show that I did not watch.
Yes.
And Tabby Matha says, oh my God, Ari, yes, the Hard Home episode of Game of Thrones is
Hard Home. It's super called terrifying. Hard Home. I couldn't remember. Yes.
Not only does that lady get attacked by the White Walker children, but then we see the White Walkers rise, all the women, men, and children that we just witnessed die again. Truly terrifying.
Yes, also that shot of her with her White Walker eyes after she just got murdered by the kids is haunting. Yeah, it's such a good episode, though. Oh my gosh, so good.
And then finally, our last comment is from 2 weeks ago's episode, the most recent, as of recording, the most recent episode that came out. Abby Gray, who I know from my church I grew up in. Said, hi, Ari and Adam. Here to share the knowledge of another piece of media where death is female presenting, the Sandman comics and TV show. Not sure if either of you have heard of it, but it's definitely worth a watch, especially since season 2 comes out next year. Love listening to the pod, and a happy spooky / holiday season.
I have heard of the Sandman show on Netflix. I actually do think I would like that show. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that death was a female on that show. Great. We love to see it. We love to see death represented by women or femmes.
Listen, we love when women get all kinds of jobs. Women can do every job. Okay.
Yeah.
Death isn't just a man's job.
No. I don't know. Wow, I can't believe we've arrived. Here we are.
Woo! Thank you for writing in. We love hearing what you guys think. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts, as well as video versions on the Ampliverse YouTube channel and Spotify. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so that we can get a perfect Newt score. 5 stars only, or else you'll have, you know what? Or else at your funeral, Dolores Umbridge is going to show up with her toad-like face and her iron-colored hair and her black velvet bow. And for what?
Get her out of there. Get her out.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HV Anxious or YouTube and TikTok at The Ampliverse. We are hosted on Spotify for podcasters, so thank you to them, and are a proud member of The Ampliverse. Check them out at theampliverse.com. Thank you, Ariana, for a wonderful season.
For another book. Another full book. Off the list.
And as always, Knox.